Flash Season 2, Episode 2, Flash of Two Worlds. Now, this is definitely an awesome episode. We got to see Jay Garricj in an entire episode, which was really cool. And we got to see him teaching Barry, who really had to get over his issues of Harrison Wells. And it was pretty awesome to see. It was very obvious, but it was still pretty fun to see. Like, Barry was just pushing him away. Like, I can't trust this guy. Like, the last person that tried to help me killed my mother. Like, he killed my mother, got Raymond killed, Ronnie Raymond killed, and tried to kill a bunch of other people, and did kill a couple on his own. So it was really fun to watch Barry have to deal with this issue, and then go through dealing with, like, this two worlds theory, and they, find the alternate version of Sand Demon, or, Earth 1 version of Sand Demon, which is also really cool, because they officially did Earth 1 and Earth 2, which was just kind of cool. So, they find him, and it's like, well, we don't really know who this Jay Garricj guy is. Like, he doesn't have his speed, which really sucks, because I think, like everybody, I just wanted to see two Flashes, like, running around saving people, which admittedly would make stuff too easy, so of course he had to have lost his connection to the Speed Force, which I'm assuming, I don't know. He lost his abilities when he came here, but that could have also been after a certain amount of time, but they didn't put that in the dialogue where he slowly lost his abilities. But it could have easily been an hour. He was already passed out because he was about to be killed, which I thought was also very cool, where he was actually about to lose to Zoom, and the singularity basically saved his life because it distracted Zoom, and it's like, holy crap. And he thought he had already killed him because, of course, his fingers were in his heart, and it was pretty much game over. And so, he's like, oh, well, he's dead, but now this singularity's opened, and, I'm assuming he ran on for, like, a tiny bit. But if Jay was passed out, then he lost his connection to his Speed Force, and maybe that's all it takes, and they aren't, they probably have to build up the fact that he can connect to the Earth 1 Speed Force. Even though, obviously this isn't the comic, so it could be different. They could do it slightly differently than just, oh, I hopped right over, no big deal. But, heck, they did that just in, changing time with Harrison Wells in the first season. It was like he went back in time, or Eobard Thawne did. He went back in time, and that's all it took, and he lost his Speed Force connection. So going to an entirely new dimension, I can easily accept that, considering what we saw from Season 1, where his powers will, like, come in and out, and that was simply from time travel. So, alternate dimension, I completely understand that. But it was still cool. We got to see the costume by the end of the episode. It was pretty sweet. We get him with the helmet. We get the... They do it a little differently with the jacket. Like, of course, it's not the sort of long sleeve shirt that he has in the comics. It's a jacket, but it doesn't have, like, a full gold lightning bolt. It's sort of just a gold outline of a lightning bolt. And I kind of wish it was completely gold, because admittedly, it was a little hard to see it. Like, you could see the gold tint, or the gold outline of it. But I was like, I'd kind of prefer it if it was, like, the full-on gold lightning bolt, because I think that looks really cool. And it would just be cool to have that, in the jacket form. I think that would actually look really sweet. So, I do wish it had that jacket on, or had the, had a full lightning bolt on the jacket, but it was still really awesome. And of course, it wasn't like, oh, here he is in a long sleeve t-shirt, basically, which is the costume from the comic. So they did update it, at least somewhat, and it does look pretty cool. We get, our second villain from Earth 2, which is Sand Demon, who is pretty awesome. I actually like the actor. Like, just the personality they had for the Sand Demon character from Earth 1 and 2 was pretty much the same. He was an arsonist in both dimensions, but in Earth 2, he just happened to get superpowers. But I like his personality both ways, so I thought that was pretty cool. Apparently, he was smart enough to make a concussion bomb, which is pretty interesting to me, so I don't know where that came from, like how he transitioned from, arson to, I'm gonna make concussion bombs, but I'm sure he picked up a few tricks being a supervillain, so it just happens. But that was definitely cool. I like that villain. They totally killed that villain. I think this is the first time they've actually killed a villain, not counting Eobard Thawne, but this is like, Barry actually did it himself. Like, any other time, it's like, yeah, he knocked somebody out, or, he stopped them, or someone else killed them. But this is the first time Barry did it himself, technically. He killed this guy, and that was just very interesting. And he does it in probably the most awesome way, because, of course, Jay Garrett comes in and he's like, I know how you can stop this guy. And once again, we get a new power from the Flash where he throws his lightning, which is super awesome. And I've only ever seen that one time, even through all the animated stuff I've seen. I've only seen that one time ever, and it was during the Flashpoint Paradox film. And I'm sure it's in some, it's got to be somewhere in like Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. But I've only ever seen him like create, like, basically like when, little concussive explosions or lightning explosions in the Flashpoint Paradox film. So it was really cool to see him harness his lightning. And, I love the way they did it. It's like he has to build it up. He has to build up enough to have, something that he can actually throw at enemies. And it still takes a bit. He still has to run around where, he ran around enough for the guy to have a full sentence, which for him is super slow. So, you can just imagine how many times he had to run around before he could actually let off, I don't know, I guess you call it a lightning bolt, or just like a lightning toss. And it was really cool. It was fun to see that. I loved how they did it with the slow motion and the lightning transitioning from the rest of his body and kind of stopping behind him, but transferring, through his hand, and then he kind of just lets it off. That was really cool. And I loved it when he did it during training and he missed, because they actually did the sound effect of a lightning bolt striking the wall when it actually hit. So that was kind of cool. It was kind of in the background because it was so far away from him, so it wasn't like a lightning bolt just struck. But you could hear it in the background, and I thought that was actually pretty awesome. I was like, that's really cool that they added that sound effect, because it could have just been, oh, it hit, and that was it. But they actually made it where if it hits a wall or something, it just sounds like lightning struck. So I love that effect. It's just like a little thing that I noticed. And that's pretty cool, and I definitely enjoyed that. We get a new character, Spivot, and she is full force nerd and good cop, like top of her class and everything. And I like her character so far. She's pretty funny. She's, she comes in, she gets the fingerprints for the guy. She found the sand. She's constantly on Joe's case, like, I want to join the anti-metahuman task force. And, she's just constantly coming at him over and over again. She's a super nerd like Barry, so I'm sure they're going to do some relationship thing for some amount of time. Who knows how long, but they're definitely going to end up in a relationship somewhere down the line. It might not even be this season, but they're definitely setting that up before they officially do the whole Barry Iris thing. It's very clear what they're setting up. So, I like her character. She was really funny and very, very cool. Like, she's just in every place she needed to be. And it's like, I'm gonna get on his good side. I'm gonna get him to put me on this task force, even though we'd be the only two members, which I thought was funny. And I guess technically she'd be the third, because Cisco is kind of a part of that team. But I liked it. It was very cool, and we got a little bit of her backstory as well, why she wanted to really, join the task force and do what she does. And it's because her father was killed by one of the Martin brothers. So she's going to be on the task force now. She's going to be integrated into things. Who knows how long before she finds out Barry's identity, because I feel like that's going to happen. Could be a secret. I mean, literally everyone who knows, every main character knows Barry's identity at this point, so that's kind of funny to me. But she might never know. Like, who knows how that's gonna play out. But I liked her character. I was also kind of cool that it advanced just in this one episode. Like, they met, and then she was just on Joe's case the whole episode. She and Barry met. She's like a fan of his and stuff. And then it just took one episode, and it was like a day or two, or possibly 3 days. But she convinced Joe, and it's like, all right, she's on the task force. So they didn't drag that out. It was like introduction, bug Joe, bug Joe, bug Joe. All right, you're on the task force, and now she's a part of the team. So I like the fact that went along very quickly. We got a little glimpse of Zoom early on in the episode, which was super cool. I love that. That was very nice. And it seemed like he has sort of, like the way they have his mask, it almost looked like he has a mask where it has like those slits for the mouth. Almost like, it makes me think of Scarecrow a little bit. That's the best example I could give. But that's like a horror movie type mask or something, where it's just one long mask. And of course eye sockets, but it's just like this over the mouth. And it just looked kind of creepy. Like, that's, I mean, obviously they blurred it, which I hope that isn't the case all the time when we have, a speedster as the villain. I'd love to just see the person, and it's like, who gives enough, and they just show who it is. But they make it another mystery where it's like, all right, we have this speedster who may or may not be the fastest that we've seen in the show, which is pretty awesome. Like, he was flat out better than Jay Garrick, period, and that's all there is to it. So I don't know how that's gonna play out. He's the one who has the blue lightning. I heard some stuff where Barry was supposed to be the one to get the blue lightning when he gets faster, but that could have just been to throw people off, or maybe that is gonna actually happen, and it'll just happen when he gets closer to fighting Zoom, because we did see the stuff in the premiere where Barry is kind of with the blue lightning and stuff, and that was sort of in the future, but maybe it was in the past, because what they talked about for Cisco in this episode, everything he saw was in the past. So maybe what he saw in the last episode was actually from Earth 2, and it was just because he saw Atom Smasher, and he thought he was seeing something different, and so did I. I thought it was the future. But the way they do it is like it's stuff that recently happened, or just something in the past in general, and that's how he's getting his abilities. So I don't know, maybe what we saw was actually something that took place in Earth 2, and maybe Barry is actually Zoom in Earth 2, and maybe that's how they're gonna play that, and maybe he gets busted, and that's how we end up with that scene of Barry behind bars. It ends up being Barry is actually Professor Zoom. So I don't know if that's how it's gonna play out, but that's kind of my guess at this point because of what we got from the last episode. I just assumed that was in the future because you get a vibe. It could be of something that has happened or something that will happen, I would assume. But the way they kind of played it in this episode means that was definitely the past. So, and that also keeps in line with season 1 as well. So since they've kind of specified that everything that Cisco sees is something that has already happened, I think that's something that happened during an Earth 2 encounter. So Barry might actually be Professor Zoom. We get an evil Barry. I know I've seen some pictures of Barry in like a black costume. I don't know if that's the Flash, that's Professor Zoom is like an evil Barry or anything, but it didn't look remotely like him. It seemed like a completely different person, although most of it was total CG because it was Jay Garrick and Zoom running, and then the most we got was of Zoom actually talking to Sand Demon in the beginning of the episode, and that was about it. So, who knows? It could be Barry, it could be someone totally different, but because of what they've kind of specified with Cisco's powers, kind of takes me back to the last episode, and it's like, okay, well, that was definitely Barry with like blue lightning going against Atom Smasher, but maybe he wasn't actually fighting him because they were really just in a room together, and that was about it. It was like a super quick glimpse. So maybe Barry is actually Zoom, in the last step, or on Earth 2. But who knows? We'll see. Probably at the end of the season, but we'll see at least eventually. Another really awesome thing was just how they kind of played the stuff, like I mentioned with Barry and his issue with Harrison Wells. And it's like, okay, we have this happening, we have that happening. Barry, of course, is just dealing with his past and how the last person that helped him killed his mother, and it's Harrison Wells is this and is that. And Harrison Wells is alive in Earth 2, so that was insane to see. I was like, who's this going to be? Like, is it going to be Barry who's a part of Star Labs? Is it going to be somebody else that we know? And it's Harrison Wells. So not only do we have another Harrison Wells who, of course, instantaneously looked evil because it's Harrison Wells, and he came out, he's just like, hello, kids, and if he says anything plain, he just seems evil because it's Harrison Wells, but it doesn't. We might get Harrison Wells as the good guy once they start jumping back and forth between the two different Earths. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Another thing that is very cool in the ending, for one, as soon as they showed the flashback with Jay and Zoom, I was like, I wonder if they're going to do a 50s version of Earth, because that's exactly what it looked like, even in that first thing, even though it was like all CG. I was like, that looks like it'll be like sort of a weird futuristic 50s, and then when we got the ending scene, that's exactly what it was. So I love that because, of course, Jay Garrick, that character, the very first Flash, came out during, like, before the 50s, actually. So, or I guess it was, yeah, like 40s, 50s. I don't believe he was there in the 30s. That was like Batman and Superman. But that was like his era. So they still have that style of Earth. And it's sort of a mashing of like 50s style and current technology. And I love that because I was like, I'm so glad that they did that for Earth 2 because it kind of just pays homage to when Jay Garrick as the Flash was actually created. So I love that idea. That was actually really awesome. And you can see it just in the clothing of like the woman who was giving the tour of Star Labs. And like they had like a little rocket ship there, and it was definitely an old school looking rocket ship. So I love how they played that. I love the fact that on Earth 2, metahumans are just like no big thing. It's like they're metahumans. Like this woman was giving a tour to little kids, and she's like, "Oh, we're the leading in scientific technology and metahuman studies." So they put that in there on purpose. Like metahumans on Earth 2 are known. They aren't a secret like they are in Earth 1 verse. So that was really cool. It's like, and I don't know how much that's gonna really play into this season or how much we're gonna get to see this Earth 2, but it's gonna have to play some part because of, especially with the ending, because it's like, oh, here's Harrison Wells, so it's definitely gonna matter at least a little bit because they know about metahumans and stuff, and it just has me excited. Like, not only do we get Harrison Wells back, but we get the actor back, and I wish I could think of his name now, but I liked him as an actor, so I'm really excited to see what they do with him for season 2. It's nice that he's been brought back, and oddly enough, it makes perfect sense, and I can't believe I never thought of that. Like, oh, we're gonna have Earth 2. I knew we were gonna have like all these other alternate heroes. I never even remotely thought of alternate villains and just alternate characters like Harrison Wells or Earth 2 could just simply be actual Harrison Wells where he isn't killed off by Eobard Thawne from the future and stuff like that. So it was a nice little twist. I was really glad to see that happen. I'm excited to see what they do with this character. I know we're going to get a scene where he and Barry encounter each other again, and Barry's just going to have to deal with that. I don't know how it's going to take place or what's going to happen, and because of course for Jay it's like I have no reason whatsoever to mention who Harrison Wells is, but everyone knows who he is clearly because of the whole Star Labs thing. It's just like Earth 1. So I'm excited to see what the heck they're going to do with that. Hopefully it wasn't just like our little glimpse from this episode and then it doesn't affect the main storyline for like 3 or 4 more episodes. I'm really hoping somehow, and I don't think it'll happen, but I hope somehow in the very next episode something happens where at least Jay mentions like, oh, we have a Harrison Wells too, and he's oddly enough in the exact same position. So I hope that happens at least, because I'm sure they won't actually end up going to Earth 2, but hopefully they at least, talk about it. Like, oh, Harrison Wells was, technically it wasn't Harrison Wells, of course it was Eobard Thawne pretending to be, but they still called him Harrison Wells. Even after they figured it out, it was like, well, we just know him as Dr. Wells and Harrison Wells, so hopefully that happens in the next episode, but of course, Flash didn't fail, so it was an awesome episode. The ending fight scene also ended when Barry and Jay go past the little brick column to pick up Spivot. That was really awesome because that was basically that's the cover to when Barry and Jay first meet each other in the comic books. That's when they first created the multiverse, was with the Flash, and that was when they first meet each other. And I believe it's the title of this episode is Flash of Two Worlds, or it may have been like Two Earths for the comic book. But it's Barry on one side, Jay on the other, and it's a woman in like the exact same pose and everything, and they're on like the opposite sides of a wall. And that's why they had that little scene happen. So I love that they threw that in there, and it's like, that's really cool. And I'm sure a lot of people would recognize it at this point because the show is so much more popular now that people have probably seen more Flash comic covers and things like that. And that's really the only reason I knew that was because of the show. As much as I love the Flash, just comics obviously cost a buttload, so I don't get to really see all the famous covers. I've seen some from a lot of different series because some are just huge and you just see them randomly. But that one I hadn't seen until fairly recently, like probably the past couple of months in between seasons. So I was glad I got to see that, and then they, kind of pay homage to it. Like, here they are running to this woman and stuff. So I love that they just threw that in towards the end there, and it was definitely pretty awesome. So, great episode. We got Earth 2 Harrison Wells. We have a futuristic 50s Earth 2 as well, which is just, I cannot wait till they go to that Earth 2. That's what I'm really looking forward to. But pretty awesome episode. The action was cool. I like the villain. Even I thought the actor himself, his personality, how he acted it, also very cool. The stuff with Jake Garricj, they did the test on him, and hopefully he gets his speed back. Oddly enough, he has a conditioned body still. He just doesn't have the speed, because they mentioned like his heart rate is basically nothing. So his body recognizes how slow it's going, and it's like, oh, this is like standing still for me after 2 years of super speed. I can't possibly get tired from this. Like, his body recognizes that. So I think that's kind of a cool way to mess around with that. Like, his body's so conditioned to the super speed that, him just training, running a little bit on the treadmill is basically nothing for him. And that's why all of his stats are like really, really low compared to anyone else who would just be like breathing heavy by then. And I was like, that's actually really cool. They didn't really say that, but I have to assume that that's what it is. Like, his body was so conditioned from being the speedster to him just running normally is like, whatever. Like, it's like breathing. It's almost like he's just standing there and breathing. So I just love that little attention to detail. And it was just something that was really cool to me. But love this episode, obviously. And of course, I want to know what you guys thought. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And there are so many different things. For one, like, there are multiple questions I gotta ask you guys. What did you think of Flash's new power? Because he's throwing lightning bolts. He won't be doing it all the time, of course, because of, how much it takes to kind of charge up enough lightning or just create enough lightning to gather it. But I want to know what you guys thought about that. What you guys thought about just Jake Garricj having like a full episode and getting to learn what kind of comic history they're doing with Jake Garricj and seeing Zoom, at least, blurry Zoom. What do you guys think about the fact that Zoom has apparently complete and utter control over the portals? Like, he just jumped through, he had Sand Demon. I was like, you want to go back? Kill the Flash. So he has complete control somehow of these portals. And also they find out, and I should have mentioned this, of course, but they found out that there are 52 of them, of course, because I think they keep doing 52. They only did it one other time, it was with Arrow. But now that they've done the new 52, I think that's why they stick with that number. It's like, oh, there's 52 portals in the city. It's like, because of the new 52. At least that's what I'm going with. Like, otherwise, it's just an insane coincidence that they use 52 as the number. But they found out there are 52, one of which, and the biggest one, unsurprisingly, being inside of Star Labs. So that's pretty cool. But like I said, I want to know what you guys think about Barry's new power. We have Professor Zoom. We got at least a glimpse of him and how he can just jump back and forth. Why do you guys think he's able to do that? And of course, the last question is, Earth 2 Harrison Wells. Is that going to be Zoom? Is it just going to be a good Harrison Wells who Barry's going to somehow find a mentor? It wouldn't be the same person. Obviously, like, even if it was Harrison Wells from Earth 2, it's still a different person. He's not going to have the same lessons or know him or anything like that. But what do you guys think of that as well? Because a huge surprise, of course, very awesome. But like I said, love the episode. I want to know what you guys thought though, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.